everybody. This is Gray Hughes, and I'm so mean.
Allegedly.
Oh, come on. It isn't really allegedly. It's the truth.
You are so mean.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, happy Mother's Day to all you awesome mothers out there. Only the awesome ones, though. So if you go, Gray, don't be mean to me, that means you weren't the awesome one, right? So just
You're
assume...
not the awesome one.
So assume you're the awesome one that I was talking about, all right? Yeah, so...
Hope everybody is good. Hey, everyone.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. We're going to be covering today a cold case of Amy Renee Mihaljevic. And I covered it like 4 years ago or something like that, and done a couple updates over the years. But I thought it'd be cool to have Chasing Truth, I guess you want to... We got to fix that bottom name there because you went back to Chasing Truth.
I did. I went back to Chasing Truth.
Yeah, to have her looking, I thought it'd be interesting for her to take a look at it because it's more in depth than when you just sort of hear out loud. Oh yeah. People have a general bit of information. I'm not even sure you had heard of it prior.
I'd never heard of it. No.
Yeah,
I'd never heard of this case.
And it's interesting to me because when you think about the overall picture of sex offenders, it has some, things that remind me of the Delphi case, actually.
It was surprising. I don't usually do the cold cases, right? And Gray's got me over here digging, right? I've spent several days reading about this one now, and wow, what a story! So we're also starting a podcast, a real one, not a video one. So this will be our very first episode on the So Mean Allegedly podcast. We'll have all that information for you guys later, but for those listening to the podcast, since this will be the first one, we also have a YouTube channel. So if you like YouTube, you should come check us out over there. If you hear us talking to our chat, that's because we have great people over here, so don't be distracted and wonder what we're doing.
Yeah. Don't worry at all. But you're going to hear the exact same version. But you can always, like she said, go check it out on YouTube because there is some mapping portions. I think it's always interesting to be on the ground, on Street View and whatnot, to be able to see exactly where she was walking, the mall, where she was found, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. Shall we get started? All right.
We shall.
I think this works. All right, so that's Amy Mihaljevic, and I think she was only 10 years old at the time, and she went missing on, I believe it was October 27th, 1989. All right, so
correct, yeah.
So we'll just here we go. Here's the cool slideshow that Chasing put together. Chasing Truth, excuse me. All
right, here we go. So in 1989, Amy gets a phone call, and this is when she goes missing.
Oh, wait, hold on.
A couple of weeks prior to her disappearance, she receives this phone call from a man, and he was claiming that he wanted to take her to buy a present for her mom. He was telling her that her mom had just received a promotion at work, and Gray informed me today that according to news articles, that is not true. The mother had not received a promotion. She was just working a different position or something, if that part is even true. And then she went to go meet the man at the Bay Village Shopping Center. And I do see that I have the date wrong there, Gray.
I just noticed that just now.
Supposed to be
it wasn't 2989. It wasn't 1,000 years in the future. Okay.
No, it was not.
Yeah.
So that's a question that we have. How did he know? You've skipped one there, Gray.
Yeah.
So how did he know? Because this man had called Amy a couple of times in the week prior to her going missing. He knew her phone number, her address, where her mother worked. He was familiar with the area that he was going to meet her in. And she was last seen walking through the parking lot with a white male estimated to be in his 30s. At the time, no vehicle was seen. So there were some questions about that, and the chat's asking, so did he know her? Well, James Renner, who also covers Maura Murray, which is the next one we're going to get into, has a website. You can find the website there, and in that website it states the following: that he, James, spoke to a young woman who may have been stalked by Amy's abductor when she herself was a young girl living in Aurora in 1987. For several days, a man called her house after school when she was home alone. This man told her that her father had just received a promotion at work. The man wanted to take her out so she could buy a surprise gift for her father. The girl didn't believe it, though, and told her mother about the phone call. A short time later, claims this woman, a man appeared at her back door when she was home alone. She said that he told her his truck was broken down and asked to use the telephone. And the girl felt uneasy and refused to let him in. He got angry with her and attempted to climb in through the first floor window. And she told him she called 911. And he ran back, and he had a white pickup truck, and he drove away.
Yeah, and there was also in the newspaper articles in March and April of 1989, there was two other girls living in the general area as Amy, and they also got phone calls, I think, of a similar nature. Yep. And it was the same thing about we got to buy a gift for a promotion. I mean, it's pretty interesting. So this guy had a technique. So go on to the next one. Right.
Yep. And the next one is basically stating exactly that. There were more calls. It was alleged that a few other young girls had received phone calls similar to the ones Amy received in the weeks prior to her abduction, claiming to work with a parent and wanting to help them purchase a gift for them. It goes over the one girl who said that she saw the truck there. But the interesting part of this is some of these girls had unlisted phone numbers. So if they had unlisted phone numbers, this became significant information for the investigators. They tried piecing all of this together, and it's been stated that Amy and the others who received such calls had all one thing in common and nothing much else. They had all visited the local Lake Erie Nature and Science Center, and that place had a visitor's logbook right out near the front door. The girls may have signed the book and added their personal information, including the phone numbers and addresses.
Okay,
because you've got to think about that.
Yeah, I mean,
how else did he get them?
Right, they're signing in, and if somehow somebody has got a hold of unlisted phone numbers, then that would be a place you might do that when an individual signs in. One thing I'm not really sure about, though, is when it says received in weeks prior to the abduction, meaning these other phone calls. I didn't see any evidence in the newspaper articles that it was weeks prior. It was so she went missing. Amy went missing October, and there was a March and an April phone calls that were mentioned in the newspapers. So if we'd have to know whether or not they had signed in to the same nature preserve prior to March and April for him to have had their numbers to call in March and April, right? So
right.
They did sign in apparently in weeks prior at the same place that Amy did, but since these calls were made in March and April, we'd have to know if that was true, that they also signed in there back then. I keep repeating myself, but that's what I'm trying to get out there.
This case took place in Ohio. Someone in the chat just asked that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Bay Village.
So the search started quickly. Everybody was involved. The whole community jumped up and got involved. Police, FBI. But unfortunately, on February 8th of 1990, 106 days it was, her body was found in a field close to the road off of County Road 1181 in the Ruggles Township in Ashland County, Ohio. This was about an hour from where she was abducted. Authorities believe she was dumped there soon after her abduction. Then there were others. This is an interesting one. There were others saying that she was probably dumped there more recently.
Yeah.
I don't know which one of those is true. Was she dumped there soon after being abducted? Was she held for a while? Or was she dumped there, sometime in the early months of 1990?
It seems like that would have been something easy for them to determine. I mean, the thing is she was found in a place where they're surprised other people hadn't seen her earlier, because she was just kind of in the open. The jogger was just running by and saw her body there, and their cars have been driving there for a long time. One article had a police officer saying that they think she'd been there for 3 weeks, but had been killed a long time ago and was transported there. And as we'll find out later, there's items that they find that would suggest maybe they used those items to transport her to the area. And there was something about food in the stomachs. I don't know if you're going to that. Wait, what happened? You disappeared from the screen. It was weird.
I have no idea what happened. My whole internet just went out.
Oh, at least it came back.
It went completely gone. So
let me throw this up here really quick. So this is, if you want to know the precise location that was listed in the newspaper, and it was really accurate because I was able to find the spot. It said, a jogger, Janet Siebold of Ruggles Township, found Amy's body at 7:30 a.m. yesterday. And let's see, along Ashland County Road, 1181, said Ashland County Sheriff Kenneth Etzweiler. The body was about 200 yards north of a farmhouse near a ditch at the northwest intersection of Ruggles Township Road 126 and County Road 1181. He said the area is about 50 miles southwest of Cleveland. So there you go. And let me show you exactly where that is on the map. This is the farm that they were talking about. And if you turn around about like this, about that angle, and then you open up, let's see, where is that? Get this shot right here. So you can see that's the spot. And if you look closely in there, it looks like the crime scene is like right there, because there's nobody walking over here, but there's people, it appears to be people standing around right there.
Yep.
And so if you come out here, it looks like that's about right in this spot. And what it looks like on the ground there is like this. So she was found kind of off to the side in the corn there. And this is they also commented that it seemed to be at the top of a hill, and you could see it really far in both directions. So it's a great place to avoid being detected. You just look. If there's any, you probably would do it at night. And if you saw any headlights coming from one direction or the other direction, you would just wait or drive by and then wait for the moment to be able to...
Yeah, act like you're changing a tire or something until they would go by.
So anyways, that is the spot. So let's get back to the slideshow. Do you want to move on to the next one? Or?
Yes, sir. So when Amy went missing, she was wearing her sweatpants and a lavender shirt. When she was found, that's what she was found in. Her boots were nowhere to be found. A single turquoise earring with a horse, which we're going to show you, was laying nearby, and she had been stabbed to death.
She was stabbed in the left neck twice. So right neck artery, I would think. So somebody knew exactly. It's just, it's disgusting,
This is the original sketch that was released.
Oh, sorry.
Now, how that ended up getting released was that there was a bunch of kids after school in that same plaza area, and there were a bunch of fifth grade boys there. Amy was in the fifth grade, and one of them called out to her. So there was a young girl there who was kind of keeping her eye on Amy to make sure the boys didn't mess around with her. And she saw the man approach, and we get into that a little bit after this, but this is the original sketch that they let out of the man.
My first thought was, what was John Denver doing there? No, I'm just kidding. He does have those same...
Looks a lot like John Denver.
It's pretty funny with the
yeah.
round glasses and the... All right.
Yeah.
That was just joking for a minute. A moment of levity in such a horrible thing.
It is. It's a very, very sad case. This one, 10 years old. But a year later, another witness comes by and says the police he came forward and told the police a man in his 20s to 30s was standing outside a dark blue hatchback car with the hatch open. He claimed to have seen this man about 13 hours before Amy was found. Now, here's what I don't like about this. In the articles that I read, it said he didn't really find the information important at the time. I'm unsure why he would have found it important a year later, but had he come forward, the next day, that probably would have been very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big deal if this guy's related at all. But I read in one article that they determined that wasn't, they couldn't verify anything that was said. So it was kind of like, did it really happen? Was it really the right day? Anything like that. But who knows? Maybe this is another individual associated, because there is some evidence that there might be multiple people involved here. Mm-hmm. A ring of some sort, perhaps. You never know.
I was actually going down that rabbit hole this weekend, and I had to stop myself.
Yeah, it's one
before
of those
I ended up there and not on this.
Yeah, you definitely there's a certain point sometimes where you go, okay, all right, and then
I got to stop here.
All right.
The next slide shows the missing items. So Amy was missing her horse riding boots, which kind of a picture of what they would look like is shown there. The earring, they found one and the other one was missing. Then she had this little binder that said Buick Best in Class written on the clasp of the closure for the binder.
Right there.
And the denim backpack, I couldn't find anything solid, and I didn't want to just put in a generic photo, so I don't know.
Yeah, so they think that it's possible that he kept one of the other earrings for and maybe even the shoes as a sort of a memento or something.
Like souvenirs and stuff. Yeah. Isn't that morbid when they keep souvenirs? I mean, I know a lot of killers do that, and that is something that isn't all that uncommon.
Yeah.
But I mean, to take the little girl's earring, and it's just very morbid to think about.
I mean, law enforcement does think that she had at least a meal after she was abducted, at least one meal, and they think that she was actually completely undressed at one point and then redressed. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're not going to take the time to put the shoes on and those kind of things.
Right.
So, but she was even with their underclothing, her outer clothing, and then she was placed. I actually think it is more likely that she was put there later instead of her being there that entire time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to the next one? Or?
Mm-hmm. So blood believed to be that of Amy's was found in her underwear, indicating she may have been sexually abused.
Sorry, hold on.
It was mitochondrial DNA. You were on the right one. Back.
Yeah, it's kind of just skipped. Right there, yeah, right there, right?
Yep. So mitochondrial DNA from the crime scene was sampled, which may be used in the future to compare to the suspects. And in 2016, it was discovered that a blanket shown in these photos here and a curtain were located near her body, and they had hairs on them similar to Amy's dog. They were possibly used to conceal the victim's body before she was left in the field. So what we end up finding out in 2019 is that the 3 hairs were found on or near her. One on her body, one on her sweatpants, and one on her underwear. Each hair is from a different person.
That's crazy.
This could mean she was put into his car and a hair from someone else transferred onto her clothing. The DNA was degraded, providing just a snippet of a genetic profile. Now, we do know, based on some other things that I was reading, that it is white males. Yeah. I do know that
but
much.
Also, at this point, they can actually get a DNA complete DNA profile from hair itself. So this is prior to that technology being in existence.
Well, I'm wondering now, I would hope now that we have, because these samples were not very good samples that they had, right? So I don't know if we have, you would know better than I would, if they have really great genetic testing. Like, this is a case where you cannot use like an Ancestry or one of those places because it's mitochondrial DNA. It's different. So you can't go and compare it, your sample, and they don't want to sample because as soon as you do that, it's destroyed.
Yeah.
So they really were trying to wait in 2019 until they were very confident that our technology was good enough.
Yeah.
So,
but I think they can do genealogy now with the hair. I think now.
Maybe now, yeah. Maybe they weren't very sure of that then. But
yeah, well, at least they did the right thing. I mean, Colleen Fitzpatrick, Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, she always really strongly advises people to not, blow the whole thing on one attempt at DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she makes sure that they always store a significant amount of what they have, because if the thing that you just did doesn't work, technology at some point will be useful for what you keep. And it's actually saved a couple of cases that she's helped out on.
I think that's what they're hoping for too. And it feels to me that this is not a case that they're going to give up on it any time soon. They're still working on it. So there have been very strange confessions and claims, and this does happen in murder cases for whatever crazy reason. I don't know why people do this, but a man walked into the Salvation Army and he confessed to killing Amy. Then he walked away, went into a grocery store, came back out, said it again, and entered a dark brown Chevy pickup with a bed cap and running boards. Police said that the man's description did not match the composite sketch that they had, so they didn't pay attention to him. Then, years after her abduction, a man burst into a Northeast Ohio church during morning mass and started pushing people and shouting that he was the one who killed Amy. Police officers were attending church and they arrested him, but they ultimately let him go, saying his confession wasn't even valid. And there have been dozens of people who've claimed that they're in fact the one who killed Amy, which is a little
it's
nuts.
Weird how people do that. Like, what would
crazy.
Why would you want that on you? It's like, it's just weird.
It would be the last thing that I would want. I don't understand why people do that. Oh my Lord.
It's crazy.
Is this happening again? Am I gone?
No, I can see it.
Well, you can see me. My YouTube is going crazy again. Oh my gosh. I don't know why this is happening today. Our weather is good today. It was really bad yesterday.
And for those of you listening on podcasts, this is just part of a live show. Okay? We're not going to edit it for you, so you'll just have to suffer through it. And that's why they call me so mean.
Allegedly.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to keep trying. We're just going to keep trying.
You look perfect on my end. There's nothing strange.
On my end, I keep freezing. So I'm just going to, power through it until it says you have no more internet.
Can you see what's going on the screen right now?
I can. Yeah. The possible suspects.
Say, well, you want to move
this
on
guy
to the
does look a lot like
that
original thing, doesn't he?
I don't know.
Kind of.
He does have the glasses.
He's much older.
He's got the glasses, I guess. I mean, here's the thing. If you take because they gave us this picture of round glasses, virtually everybody with round glasses starts looking like the suspect.
Yeah, that's true, right?
yeah, it's kind of weird.
Right.
Like John Denver wasn't there.
he was a character. So in 2018, police began to look into this guy, right? He had been known as Robert Ivan Nichols, but he was also known as Joseph Newton Chandler. So Chief Mark Spatzel stresses that the police were only looking into him in the ordinary course of their work and that they had no information that directly tied them. But They identified him as Robert Nichols, a World War II vet who earned a Purple Heart. He had assumed the identity of Joseph Newton Chandler, an 8-year-old in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who had died in a car crash in 1945. After all of this stuff and Amy going missing and whatever else may have happened in his life, he took his own life in 2002. And his name was discovered when DNA was matched to his son. So why were they testing this man's DNA? Where did this come from?
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe it wasn't just regular family. Well, that's too early for that. Nobody was doing family tree stuff and really like 23
in 2002.
Yeah,
his name was discovered when DNA was matched to his son. So there had to be a reason.
Well, they might have had his DNA, right? Because he came up in their investigation, right?
In 2018.
Oh, 2018.
Yes, they began to look at him, even though he had been deceased now for 16 years. So they obtained DNA sampling from his son, I'm assuming, and then traced all of this back to realize that wasn't even really his name. He assumed the identity of an 8-year-old who had died. Why would that be?
You know what's really weird is he looks just like the individual in the Summit County doe that hasn't been identified yet, but obviously this guy, they know where he is, but I mean, it looks almost like a clone of that image. So it says he took his own life in 2002. His name was discovered, was DNA matched to his son. But maybe the son, this is just later though. Like let's say in 2017, the son was on Ancestry.com and then, but then again, how would his DNA, why would they even collect his DNA in 2002 when he took his own life?
There had to have been a reason that they had this man in their sights at all. You know, even though the chief did say, you know, we're just doing this. Well, you know, if somebody was murdered in Gray's town, are they going to take Gray's DNA and hold it for later to identify later because he happened to live in the town? Maybe he fit profile or was acting suspicious or somebody pointed him out once or something. I have no idea how he ended up in this investigation, but they were looking into him. No, then we've got the most controversial person coming up here in a minute. But there was a statement from one of Amy's classmates, and I told this story already. Over the years, Maddie, the girl who was keeping her eye on Amy while they were at the plaza, has looked at hundreds of different photos of suspects. She's pointed out a couple that could be possible, but she saw a photo of a man named Dean Runkle. And she said, there have not been many photos that have been this close. I would definitely tell them to investigate this guy. And I see where I have Amy. I need to change that to Maggie. So Maggie was talking about this man.
Why did it go right to that? It didn't.
Because it does, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
sorry.
Ray's going to play a video of Dean Runkle. And keep in mind, the girls receiving these phone calls had one thing in common, which was the local Lake Erie Nature and Science Center. Regardless of when they may have been there, it was the only thing that all of them had in common that anybody could nail down. But the police have never officially named Runkle a suspect. These suspects that we're talking about have been considered by independent people and friends of Amy and people in that town, or not, journalists investigating the case. But look at this guy.
Okay, so first just look at that. Okay, you got to keep that in your head.
Yes.
Before you switch over. I mean, this guy might not have anything to do with it at all, but
maybe not.
But he's an interesting person. Let's put it that way.
Very.
So here we go. It's switching over.
This teacher's probably the liveliest life science class you'll ever see.
And Denise is here now to guide us on a field trip. This most unusual classroom as we pay our weekly tribute to teachers.
It is unusual. When the 8th grade students at Nord Junior High called Dean Runkle's classroom a zoo, they're not kidding. And that's exactly the way he likes it. Oh, we're not talking about just a couple of mice or a guinea pig. Try an alligator, a prairie dog, iguana, snakes, piranha, an entire saltwater fish menagerie, and that's not all. There are 50 tanks and cages in all lining the walls of room 105.
This all belongs to me. It's my hobby, but it's a great hobby to have because then my students, they get to share with it.
In Dean Runkle's case, commitment to his job is an understatement. Between class preparation and zookeeping, he spends 16 hours a day here and doesn't take summers off. Sounds like quite a burden. Not at all.
I love it. I love the kids. They're young. They have the enthusiasm. It's just a lot of fun.
For many of these 8th graders, this may be their last exposure to life science in school, so Mr. Runkle likes to make it a memorable year.
Usually I sing when I do this, but we'll let it go today.
Yes, he's definitely an inspiration. He always challenges us to do our best, not only in science, but also in life as well.
See, that's the intestine right there. Beautiful. Excellent. Yes.
Every lesson in here, including the team's very first earthworm dissection, incorporates a lot of hands-on learning. But Dean's classes are always sliced with fun as well.
I used to play ragtime piano professionally. I worked for Disneyland. That was before there was a Disney World many years ago. And one of the basic philosophies in entertainment is that your audience deserves the best show possible. And that's the way I teach. My students deserve the best.
You know, for 27 years, Dean Runkle has been bringing the world of life science to life for junior high students in Vermilion and now in Amherst. And for that, we'd like to offer Dean our heartfelt congratulations, along with a $250 savings bond and brunch at the Ritz-Carlton. He's got the right idea. Got to keep the interest up.
Oh, I knew he was a performer, and he's got the best audience of all, huh?
And you mentioned he works all summer. I'm sure he does. Otherwise, he'd have to take all those animals home.
That's
They'd have to be
right.
tagged worth.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
That's our News at 5 Inside Edition is next.
We'll all be back.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
Unfortunately, in the chat, we got one of those know-it-all people that's gonna, hey, are you guys ignoring this? Are you ignoring that? You're ignoring this, ignoring that.
Well, we're doing a podcast recording, so we're going to ignore that.
Yeah, we're just what we're doing right now is going over some of the people that have been thought of as suspects and why. I'm not thinking myself that this guy is the person, but it's interesting that the 3 of the phone calls that were made were actually to girls who signed on the sign-up sheet at the same exact place where this guy was working. Right.
And it is interesting. I mean, he was a very passionate teacher, which is a wonderful thing. But he was born just a few miles from where Amy's body was found. He had a nature center in his classroom where kids were considered assistants. They could stay after school to help with the animals. There's nothing nefarious in that. Sometimes he would even have a cot there so he could sleep there. However, in investigating this case, there is a journalist who claims to have heard from some of his students where some of Dean's touching and joking was extremely inappropriate. Does that mean that this gentleman murdered Amy? Absolutely not. But when you've got a murder like this, you've got these phone calls, you have a nature center, you have a description and a composite drawing who looks so close to this man, you've got to at least consider that, right? And then in 1987, he resigned due to health reasons, and the story wasn't really clear on what they were. He went to work for a pet store after that. And then in 89, he went to work for the high school, the junior high we just saw, and made another classroom like that. 2003, he quit again, but, he just resigned. And he declined a sabbatical that would have allowed him time to reach his retirement. And he had put in many years, so that's also an odd thing. And he didn't complete his pension paperwork, allegedly. So if any of those things are completely accurate and true, which, I'm sure Mr. Renner, who wrote the book and has the article on Amy, you have to really try your best to verify things before you put them out into the universe, especially things that could get him into trouble for putting these things out there.
They're like,
who knows?
Like that's when you look at that picture, you think, oh, it's pretty similar. Over here as a description, it says, he was talking to a white man described as 5'8" to 5'9", medium build with dark hair that may have been curly with a bald spot, round glasses, and a trace of beard growth. Okay, so when you look at this guy, could he have, I don't know what color his hair is, but it doesn't look like.
Well, people said it was blonde, but we just watched a video. His hair is not blonde.
Yeah, it's sort of like a brown.
At best, it might be a ash brown, maybe. But blonde? No.
Yeah. And he is, let's see, the bald spot, I guess we'd have to see him turn around. I mean, that's an interesting little detail that they had. But.
Well, on the next one, I only added another statement here. And it said, Dean has cooperated, but it has been said when asked for DNA, he obtained a lawyer. Today he's in his 70s and not working anymore as a teacher, and he resides in Florida. So that's all we really know about Dean.
Right.
But then in 2019, a very interesting video is coming up here.
Okay, you want to go to the video? This one?
Well, 31 years ago today, the body of a missing girl from Bay Village was found in a farm field in Ashland County.
Now, more than 3 decades later, investigators have yet to charge anyone in the kidnapping and killing of...
1 second here. See, that's a good look at the hill that they were talking about. See that right there? You can see it's right at the top, and it's just to the left side. And then at the top, then it goes down another hill.
So you can see down it and behind.
Yeah, exactly. You can see both directions. Yeah. I'm not sure where this came from. That's wild. That looks like it's way down this embankment and then looking up, but that doesn't really exist on the landscape, so I don't know how they came up with that.
Anyone in the kidnapping and killing of Amy Mihaljevic. But the 5 on Your Side investigators recently uncovered newly filed court records showing investigators focusing in on a potential suspect.
Investigator Scott Knoll has more of what he's discovered in a story you will only see here on News 5.
These are the sworn statements from the lead investigator with Bay Village Police. In them, he says a woman came forward 2 years ago and identified her former boyfriend as a suspect in Amy Mihaljevic's murder. It's the case that shocked a community.
There has been panic and paranoia.
10-year-old Amy Mihaljevic kidnapped October 27th, 1989.
Say lots and lots of prayers for Amy Renee Mihaljevic.
Despite thousands of tips, prayers from the community, and a nationwide search, on February 8th, 1990, the search for Amy turned into the search for her killer. Mihaljevic's body found in a rural Ashland County farm field 50 miles away from the Bay Village Square shopping center where she was last seen talking to the man seen here in FBI composite sketches.
It's believed the man in this composite sketch kidnapped the 10-year-old girl from the Bay Village shopping center.
But who is he? 5 on Your Side investigators discovered police now following up on a tip they received in January 2019. According to newly filed court documents, a woman told police she suspects her ex-boyfriend is Amy's killer. We're not naming him because he's not been charged with any crime. But according to an affidavit filed last fall, the woman told investigators she lived with the man less than 1.5 miles from the shopping center where Amy was last seen. Police say the man had family in Bay Village, including a niece in the same grade as Mihaljevic. And the night Amy disappeared, court records show the woman told police the man never came home. However, the woman told police she did hear from the man that evening, a phone call asking if she was aware of the news coverage on Amy's disappearance. And police say there's more.
They've been having this on television for 3 months. And then you wake up in the morning and find it's about 300 yards, find the body about 300 yards from your house.
Police say they found gold fibers on Amy's clothing after her body was discovered. The detective told a Cuyahoga County judge the now 64-year-old man drove a gold-colored Oldsmobile with a tan interior at the time. And police say his former girlfriend recalls traveling to Ashland County with the man. We've also learned on the day Amy's body was discovered, an FBI agent was assigned to record all cars and license plates passing through a nearby intersection. Police say around 5 p.m. that evening, the agent recorded the man's gold Oldsmobile driving by. According to the detective, his investigation has not been able to show any reason why the man should have been there that day.
We don't have like one suspect. We're like, yeah, this is the guy. But at the same token, we have such a vast amount of information. I think it only going to take a couple pieces of information to tie all that together and actually solve it.
Seems like
Just
it's gotta
days
be
after
that
Bay
guy.
Village's former police chief told that to News 5, investigators say the man in question walked into the police department and talked to investigators over the course of 2 days. In a sworn affidavit, the detective said the man, quote, made very suspicious statements, including that 1989 and 1990 was a dark period in his life. According to court documents, the man initially told investigators Amy was never in his car, but when asked again if it was possible, investigators say the man said okay, but I don't know what the situation would have been. The detective wrote the man also agreed it was possible his DNA would be on a curtain found near Amy's body, and that his DNA would be on Amy's body, quote, if somebody planted it on her. Investigators say the man agreed to a DNA swab and also a polygraph test. Police say the result of that test was deception indicated. They also say the man did not show up the next day to sign paperwork allowing them to search a storage unit. Instead, according to the detective, police got a warrant, searched the storage units, where, quote, officers seized evidence. Leading up to the 30th anniversary of his daughter's murder, Mihaljevic's father told us he's still hopeful Amy's case will be solved.
It's something that you can never stop thinking about.
A case that after 31 years could be heating up. Police telling a judge that in May, 2 witnesses picked the man's picture out of photo lineups as the man they remember seeing Amy talking to the day she disappeared. So what else do we know about this man? Police say he's currently homeless and living in his car. We tried calling and texting him to ask about this case. We never got a response. We also tracked down the woman who came forward with this information. She referred us to investigators. But the Bay Village detective quoted in these court documents told us he wouldn't comment on what we found. In Bay Village, I'm 5 on Your Side investigator Scott Knoll.
If you have information about the murder of Amy Mihaljevic, the FBI is offering a reward of up to $25,000 for tips that lead to the arrest and conviction in her death. Anyone with information is asked to call this number, 1-800-CALL-FBI.
There you go. That's that on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that last guy seems like you just go, whoa. I mean, what was he doing? What a great idea by the FBI and law enforcement to monitor who's driving by. It's sort of like when you do the vigils or at a funeral. You have officers watching to see who's there, because a lot of times the killers want to, look into what's going on, how's the investigation going, and what people know, perhaps. And so they were monitoring, and then boom. Well, they didn't even know it at the time. They just recorded, here's a car that came by, here's a license plate. And then years later, when this lady turns in her ex-boyfriend, it turns out he was actually one of the cars that drove by. I mean, that's incredible.
Now I'm wondering, why did she wait so long? It's a very long time to wait.
It's also bothering me that these 2 witnesses that saw Amy that day are recognizing the look 25 years later, 30 years later. That's pretty weak. Like, oh yeah, that's the guy in a lineup. It's
Right, it is difficult. I'm more inclined to believe Maggie, not a real name, but she was there that day. She looked at the guy and she saw the photo of the teacher and felt he closely matched what she saw. But, obviously, if he did obtain an attorney, I guess they'd have to have really good reason.
Yeah.
Other than, he was a teacher and visited the nature center. I don't know. But it's really sad that this has gone on since 1989. When is the technology going to be good enough? We need to know that. And it might be now, you're saying, right?
Yeah, but I know that they can get DNA out of hair now. not just the. I'm not really sure what you were saying earlier about just mitochondria DNA, but because that was what it was when it was the prior technology. They could just get that out of a hair, but I think just recently, in like 2020 or something like that, even after maybe a little bit after that, they can actually get a DNA sequence out of it.
Well, the way that I was reading it, it was that there were 3 out of the 4 markers needed to test with what they had at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
So there was another that they needed, and they just couldn't.
You can use it to rule out people. For
Right.
example, like if they had those markers, then they're included. But if they don't have those markers, you can automatically just remove them.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you want to watch? There's this interesting. I found it on a website. I can't remember which one it was, but the link's in the description. But this is actually a video, and it has her at school, and then that same detective goes over it like 3 different times, but it has a little bit more information each time. It's like 20 minutes long, though. I don't know if we can pause it here and there if you want, but do you want to do that? I mean, you can always take something out of it. I mean,
sure, yes, we can cut stuff out of the podcast.
I think we do have to cut some stuff out anyways, because the part about with the froze.
Oh, I'm already planning. Don't worry.
But my part was at 34 minutes. Okay. All right, here we go.
Anyways, it's about 4 kids: Lacey, 13, James, 10, Maybeth, 9, and Sammy, 6. They're trying to get to their Aunt Sybil's house because their mom left them, and their aunt is the only relative they knew of. They got there, but with a few problems because their aunt died. But their cousin, which was living in their aunt's house, took them in.
It involves the kidnapping of a 10-year-old girl.
That body has been positively identified as that of Amy Mihaljevic.
It is one of the biggest murder mysteries in local history.
On October 27, 1989, in Bay Village, 10-year-old Amy Mihaljevic was kidnapped shortly after leaving school. Those who were living in the area at this time remember this tragic incident as it played out on the local news every evening. First the search, then the follow-up investigation, and now, more than 2 decades later, this case remains unsolved.
October 27th, 1989, Mrs. Margaret Mihaljevic came to the Bay Village Police Department to report her 10-year-old daughter, Amy, never came home from school.
I got home and Margaret was semi-hysterical. Amy hadn't been home. And I got home about 6 o'clock, so Amy was nowhere to be found, and that's where it all began.
The Bay Village Police Department immediately took action. This is a 10-year-old girl who should have been home immediately after school. We talked to friends of Amy's, parents of Amy's friends. No one had seen her.
My one friend and I put on our own search down by the creek in Bay Village and just walked because she liked the animals. That would be her type of idea, to get lost in the woods if she could. But to no avail, of course.
The next day we mobilized, we got the FBI involved. We brought in the family, the friends for interviews, and we quickly learned that Amy went to the Bay Square Shopping Center to meet with somebody that had been calling her and trying to get her to go shopping to buy a present for her mother. She was going to be given $45 to purchase a gift for her mother who had received a promotion at work. Amy kept that a secret. She told a few of her friends. Her brother Jason overheard a conversation about this, but other than that, Margaret or her father Mark knew nothing about this meeting and the supposed shopping trip. There was a lot of friends at the Bay Square Shopping Center that Friday afternoon. We talked to them, and based on those conversations, we came up with 2 composite drawings of a possible suspect, a white male, 25 to 30 years old, and we got them out in the media. Volunteers got those things out.
There was so much going on. The people of Bay Village set up a command center at the City Hall. A lot of volunteer work. All the posters that were made were all voluntarily printed by a company. A good share of the media lived in Bay Village, and a good share of the FBI and police lived in Bay Village. That was their home base. So if there is an advantage, that's the one advantage we had. It was a community effort.
And over the span of the next 3 months, literally tens upon thousands of leads and tips came in that were followed up by the Bay Village Police Department, 60 agents from the FBI, and various other law enforcement agencies.
You know, I heard something crazy. This officer right here, he would go to schools and give talks on law enforcement, and he actually, I think it was that very day, October 27th, he gave a talk, at the same school that Amy went to, but it was actually, she was in the class. I mean, like literally he spoke to her, gave a speech that day, a talk, and there is Amy, happened to be in that class. So I bet you that's really affected him over the years and kind of kept him like really motivated.
I also read that one of the leads on this is the one who was integral in catching Whitey Bulger.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of suspects were developed, a lot of names came up. They were vetted out as much as you could possibly do with any kind of suspect. Unfortunately, it yielded very little.
Her birthday was on December 11th. She was missing on October 27th. And I gotta be real honest, at that time, I just realized in my heart that I would probably never see her again.
106 days after the abduction of Amy Mihaljevic, a female jogger was jogging down Route 1181 in Ruggles Township, which is in northern Ashland County. As she was jogging down the roadway, she noticed something out of the corner of her eye. It was a pale green, it looked like rags in the field. She got a closer look and realized that it was the body of a young female. She then ran to the nearest farmhouse, called 911. Bay Village Police was called, the FBI were called, they all descended upon that area. Her body was taken to the Cuyahoga County Coroner's Office, where it was confirmed that that was the body of Amy Mihaljevic found in that field.
I wasn't shocked, hurt of course, but not totally shocked. But some relief, again, revenge. I would definitely ask him why. I mean, there's absolutely no reason.
Once the body was found, hundreds upon thousands of tips started pouring in. Now what's interesting is if you look at these types of cases, the abduction and kidnapping of a young girl, they only happen for several reasons. One would be a kidnapping situation for ransom, a family type kidnapping, or generally some kind of sexual predator. We ruled out the family, so now we're looking at some kind of sexual predator that kidnapped and murdered Amy Mihaljevic, who has some type of knowledge of Amy, the family, because these calls that were made to lure Amy to the Bay Village Square to take her shopping were very specific, that her mother had received a promotion at work, we're going to take you shopping to buy her a gift, and that was all relatively true. While she didn't receive a promotion, she had a job change. In Amy's mind, probably said it's a promotion, so this guy must know what he's talking about, and he was able to talk to Amy carefully enough that Amy knew that this might be somebody that I know, or somebody who's close to my mom or dad, whatever the case may be, we don't know specifically, but Amy was comfortable enough to go with this person. So we have a sexual predator who made pretextual calls to lure a young girl to a location to kidnap her and take her. Very unusual set of circumstances that you don't see repeated. In fact, we've checked cases throughout the nation trying to find some similar fact pattern, some similar MO, and we've been unable to discover anything exactly like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some similarities to Delphi, right? With you're trying to lure somebody. It sounds like, anyway, with the catfishing attempt. But this is prior to, obviously, like internet, really. I mean, it just started basically. Oh, hell, it didn't even start. About 89, I don't think there was much of anything at that point. So, yeah, I mean, there's some points in here where they go over it like 3 different times from the start, but there's always something new in it. If you guys want to check out we can actually go and look at exactly where this all took place. So here's the Bay Middle School right there, and then she left the middle school, and then she just walks down with this direction, and I guess when she gets to the bridge, that's what this guy in that video we just played, one of the other segments, says that she walks alone here. Her bike was still at the school, and she walks alone, and just at this bridge here, she caught up to 2 friends. And so if you're not, you'll have to go watch on YouTube if you're listening to this. Walks over the bridge, meets up with the 2 friends, and then they continue to walk together. It's not very far at all. And they head towards the mall here. And there used to be a Baskin and Robbins. So let me go up in the air here. We'll like shoot forward a little bit. It's right here, and it was on this corner, and that's where they originally went, right inside here, but now it's not a Baskin and Robbins anymore, and she was standing next to a pole right there probably, and that's when she then walks over to this older individual and gets into his car and disappears, only to be found again in February. What's going on? Gotta wake you up over there. I'm just kidding.
Get back to the video, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna get back. I'm gonna fast forward it to the next segment. I think it's right there. This is a new one, another segment.
2:05 in the afternoon on Friday. She had ridden her bike to school, and she had left the bike in the bicycle rack at the Bay Middle School. She left the school, she walked by her bicycle and continued towards the Bay Square Shopping Center. She walked eastbound on Wolf, at which point near the bridge on Wolf Road she met up with two friends. Her and her two friends continued walking eastbound on Wolf and arrived at the Bay Shopping Center, and specifically she went to the Baskin-Robbins at the corner of the shopping center. She hung out there for a while, talked with some friends, and this is a very popular area after school for Bay Middle School kids, and particularly on this day, since it was a warm, sunny day. In late fall, there were a lot of kids that went to the Bay Square Shopping Center, so there were a lot of children hanging around the area. She continued to stay in the area between Baskin-Robbins and the barber shop, talking with various friends of hers, standing there. She seemed to be waiting for something or someone.
So what's interesting is this guy made a technique where he realized, okay, apparently she got her mother did get a different job where she works, but it wasn't a promotion. That's what I read somewhere. I can't find that part. But either way, he used the technique. You can't tell your mom because it's a surprise. Mm-hmm. And then she was probably really excited because then I think he even upped it a little bit and said he would buy her some stuff too. So she's like, yeah. So she kept it a secret, and she actually fibbed to her mom that day because so how it worked was
right. She did call her mom that day, right?
Yeah. The way it worked was that the right after school, the son called her their mother, who was at work, because that's what they would do. They would check in, but he said, "Hey, Amy's not home yet." But she wasn't worried. The mom wasn't, because Amy had set up a lie earlier in the day by saying that they were.
She was going to choir practice.
Yeah, it's going to be choir practice, and that that was just it. There was choir practice after school, but then later she was talking. Amy did call, amazingly, like you would think, and that probably made the mother feel some comfort. Amy called and told her that, choir practice is Wednesday and Thursday.
I almost feel like that was a hint, Gray, when she asked her, so how did practice go? And she said, practice is Wednesday and Thursday. And her mom said, but today is Friday.
Right. And that's when, isn't that interesting? I mean, it could be, but it was kind of early in the evening, so I don't know how far they could have gotten or something, like if that was, hey, you got to tell her.
She may have known she was in danger or something, though.
Yeah. And then she said that the mother said that she, what was the next? I forgot where I was. I was on a roll there, but it was something about, so after the mother asked her, where she, why are you still out there if it's Friday's the day, today's Friday, and your choir was Wednesday and Thursday, and then the mother said, is it something like, she said it was for the new people on Friday, like the newer kids, but none of that was true, it turns out later. So it was for the the newer choir people. But why was she there, though? I guess just watching the newer people. She was already on the choir. Didn't really put up any alarm bells.
It didn't make sense. So wouldn't her mother have thought, well, why were you there? That's why I thought maybe she was trying to tell her mom without telling her mom if the man was right there.
Yeah.
It's for new people. Wouldn't her mother say, why are you there?
Saying.
Are you okay? Or what's going on? But her mom said she was just quiet, and she didn't think much more of it.
Yeah, quiet. That's right. That was it. That she thought she just seemed unusually quiet. So it makes you kind of think almost maybe right at that moment if the guy's standing next to her or something like that. Like, hey, give your mom a call, but hey, don't tell her what we're doing. And then, she was in this weird situation where she didn't want to answer. But I mean, it's really strange, that whole scenario there. But it's also sad too, because that's the last conversation the mother ever had, was right then.
Yeah.
She was there from anywhere from 2:15 to approximately 3:30 based upon various eyewitness accounts. We have Amy standing in front of Baskin-Robbins. We have her standing in front of the Bay Barber Shop. We have her walking back and forth between the Bay Barber Shop and the Baskin-Robbins. According to witnesses, Amy was standing by one of the light poles at Bay Square when she was approached by a male, a white male. There was some type of conversation. Some of the children who were at the Bay Square with Amy saw a male with Amy. In fact, two of the individuals sat down with us and we formed composite drawings of what the male looked like based upon these two 10-year-olds that saw Amy with this individual.
And that was quick.
And there was no commotion. Amy was there to meet somebody and to leave with them to go buy a gift. At least in her mind, that's what she was there for.
Yeah, it is interesting where the call came from. Was it a payphone right there? Yeah, where did Amy call home from? They must have figured that out at some point.
So when these two individuals, witnesses, saw Amy with this man, they didn't think anything of it. And they thought it was Dad, and Amy left with this white male walking towards the parking lot. And that's the last really anybody saw of Amy Mihaljevic, was with this male walking towards the parking lot at Bay Square. So one thing that we always want to tell people is don't rule anybody in, don't rule anybody out based upon those composite drawings, because the accuracy of those is very suspect. It's a generality. It's a white male, 20 to 30-something age. We're pretty confident about that. Beyond that, the specific features of those composite drawings may not be accurate at all. They had no reason to take specific note of this person. Yet the next day they're asked what he looks like. And you can imagine the difficulty in trying to remember specifics about shape of the face, hair.
See, that's why that's such a huge thing right there for me. They weren't even paying attention really. They were just like, yeah. You know, just there's Amy, she's... And then the next day they're asked to come up with, what did he look like? And that's what they came up with, you know, he had the glasses and things. And then 30 years later you ask him, oh yeah, that's the guy. I mean, it just seems like your memory from something that wasn't even that great to begin with wouldn't be that awesome, you know?
I just found something else. I messaged it to you. Fox 8 I-Team reporter Bill Scheel does a great job of summing up the status of the investigation. 4 girls who received phone calls like Amy's in the week leading up to her abduction were interviewed.
Oh, the week before it. So then not just those ones.
The weeks leading up, yep.
Not just
so it wasn't just one, it was
well, there was March and April.
4 different girls.
But it must not have been even those ones, the March and April ones that they mentioned in that article.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Do you want to, is there something to play?
I'm going to go look for it now while we're playing this.
Oh yeah, there we go. There's the items here.
That had white buckles and white piping on it. And
hold on, let me go back.
On the day that Amy was abducted, Amy was wearing a light pale green sweatsuit, long sleeves, with sweatpants that were matching. She also had with her a white windbreaker. She carried a denim backpack that had white buckles and white piping on it. And in that backpack, she had a black notebook that was given to her by her father, who works for General Motors. And it was a very unique item in that it had a brass buckle on it that said best in class. Not something everybody would have laying around the house. In addition to that, she was wearing earrings. These earrings were, based upon her love of horses, were horse head earrings, silhouetted, made out of turquoise. She was also wearing black boots, which were similar to riding boots. These boots were unique in that they had silver studs from the ankle all the way down to the toe, and they were leather black boots. When Amy's body was found February 8, 1990 down in Ashland County, she was still clothed in the pale green sweatsuit that she had on. However, there were certain items that were missing. Her boots were gone, her turquoise horsehead earrings were missing, there was no sign of her backpack, nor was there any sign of her windbreaker. What we've learned through studying the people that do these types of crimes is they will often keep mementos of their crime. So we've always wondered where those items went. There's the horsehead earrings, the notebook, which her father gave her, and there's the boots. Very unique items that this person may have kept in a collection as a memento of his crime. This crime occurred in 1989. I had started the job in 1985, so I was 4 years on the job, and one of my things I like to do was go into the schools and talk to the kids, whether it be about officer safety, what we do in the police department, you know, kind of meet the officers so they feel more comfortable. Well, on that day, Friday, October 27th, I actually had an occasion to go into the Bay Middle School and give a talk to one of the classes. Not until weeks later did I learn that Amy Mihaljevic was actually in that class that day, the day she was abducted.
This is crazy. How weird, huh? And there's, it's just, the old lady does it again. A whole nother segment. These are all segments I think they released to get people to look into it. Do you want to just do the last one, or?
17,000 in population. It's kind of a middle-class suburb. It's a very quiet community. It's a community where most people go to raise a family, and everybody kind of knows everybody. And when this crime occurred, it set the community back.
Bay Village was shaken. Parents wouldn't let their children play in the street, and the world became a scary place. There was a killer out there, and no one knew who it was.
And Bay Village wasn't noted for having bad people. That was a bedroom community where everybody played soccer on Saturday afternoons and went to a good school system and had a nice community. There are not people living like that in Bay Village.
In fact, the community got closer after this incident. They held rallies, they held memorials, they did all kinds of things to assist one of their community members in a time of tragedy. You know, and that kind of close-knit community is what it still is today.
It was one of the factors that led to a divorce between Margaret and myself. You're never the same. I mean, like somebody told me, it's like trying to describe a color on a phone that nobody's ever seen. You just can't put yourself in that position. It's still affecting me, even to this day. But I guess I could have had a couple choices. I could have just stopped breathing or just put another foot in front of another one and try to get on with it. But the pain is still there. The hurt is still there. Still miss Amy.
At the time of abduction, Amy was a beautiful 10-year-old.
Did you notice that sort of similar to in the Delphi case on Abby? The date on her gravestone is the 14th, and Libby's is the 13th because you can choose. And if you look at this right here, where was that? I think it was, they just showed it for a second there.
Well, they held rallies, they held memorials, they did all kinds of things to assist one of their community members in a time of tragedy. You know, and that kind of close.
Was it right before that? I think it was right. Well, they showed her gravestone and it had the date she was found. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously not the date she died.
And when this crime occurred, it set the community back.
Bay Village was shaken. Parents wouldn't let their children play in the street, and the world became a scary place. There was a killer out there, and no one knew who it was.
And Bay Village wasn't noted for having bad people. That was a bedroom community where everybody played soccer on Saturday afternoons and went to a good school system and had a nice community. There are not people living like that in Bay Village.
In fact, the community got closer after this incident. Well, they held rallies, they held memorials, they did all kinds of things to assist one of their community members in a time of tragedy. You know, and that kind of close-knit community is what it still is today.
It was one of the factors that led to a divorce between Margaret and myself. You're never the same. I mean, like somebody told me, it's like trying to describe a color on a phone that nobody's ever seen. You just can't put yourself in that position. It's still affecting me, even to this day. But I guess I could have had a couple choices. I could have just stopped breathing or just put another foot in front of another one and try to get on with it. But the pain is still there. The hurt is still there.
February 8th.
At the time of abduction, Amy was a beautiful 10-year-old girl. Had a brother named Jason who was 3 years older, mom and a dad, both working family. Dad worked, mom worked, kids did well in school. Amy was a very outgoing girl. She loved to ride horses. She loved to be out, active.
I mean, she was jumping off the high dive at 5 years of age, just into animals and athletic.
I don't want to say she was a tomboy, but she certainly wasn't a girly girl either. But she was a very vibrant, young, beautiful girl.
Amy was a can-do kid. I mean, you didn't bend over and tie her shoelaces for her because she had the attitude she could do everything. Amy had a lot of friends. She was very sociable with people her age. She very much shied away from adults. I mean, if you asked her a question, she would answer it. She was polite, but wouldn't go forwardly in approach an adult.
Through our investigation, we learned that other children in the area had received somewhat similar calls to which Amy had received. Particularly, we identified a couple girls in North Olmsted who in the summertime had received similar phone calls in that the male caller had wanted to take them shopping to go buy presents for their mother. Now, these calls didn't go any farther than that. I think the girls may have recognized something was amiss, asked their parents about it. Nothing ever happened. But they're similar enough in MO to the call or calls that Amy received that it piqued our interest. And of course, we interviewed these individuals. We looked for common factors between the calls that these individuals received and that Amy received, and tried to find something in common that we could use as an investigative lead. While we found various things, nothing really led us down a direction that proved fruitful. Bay Village still remembers this case. We still want it solved. Everybody still works towards that goal, and nobody's ever forgotten Amy. There's a memorial plaque for Amy Mihaljevic at the Bay Village City Hall that's been there. It's been there for 22 years now, and most people are aware of that. You know, that's our permanent reminder of youth and Amy Mihaljevic and what was stolen from the community and stolen from this family that we want to get back.
Amy and Margaret were the best of buddies. I mean, they were as close as you could be. She lost one of her best friends.
She had suffered through this tragedy for many years, and unfortunately she passed away without knowing who it was that abducted and killed her baby girl.
You know, it's sad because right there you could see the moment where almost like they weren't going to be together.
Heartbreaking.
They weren't going to be together anymore. Like, you could see her, she was just gone, and he's over there just crying, and then they... And that you know, the thing is, these killers, I don't know, they don't give a damn, but it just, they affect so many other people. You know, it's not just that they killed somebody, it destroys so many
everyone lives. Yeah,
that's just awful, you know.
One of the things that I'm reading, Gray, the link to the article or video from Bill Shield, he actually retired in 2020, unfortunately. But it says there are a couple of things that seem to link the girls together, including people connected to Holly Hill horse stables and the fact that they all played in a traveling soccer league. Those are the only real connections that they were able to find between all of these people who allegedly received these phone calls. But Bill retired, so I'm over here. myfoxcleveland.com was the old website that it was on, and now it's just called Fox 8. But I'm searching. They have a lot on Amy, but they don't have that since it was so long ago. It seems it was 2007.
No, maybe we can do like another one at some point with some new...
if we can find it,
there seems to be a lot of different details that are out there. It's just, you know, I think you guys have the basic story at this point. You know, it's there's various suspects out there. That last one to me is the most intriguing, with the ex-girlfriend and the fact that guy's car drove by there. That's exactly, it fit the profile. You want me, maybe I can just do that really quick. I did find in a newspaper article what the FBI at the time put out as a profile, and it was in the newspaper, and I'll zoom in so you can see it better. Right here, so it said, the abductor likely abducted alone during the actual abduction. However, the person may have taken someone into his confidence to create an alibi or to obtain the assistance of a friend or associate to cover up his involvement in the crime. The abductor may have alluded to his involvement during conversations with a friend, an associate, or relative. Any such person having such knowledge could be in a significant degree of peril or danger. People who commit crimes like this often remain in the area and frequently will monitor the investigation closely. See, there you go. That was that's why they had somebody watching to see if he drove by the crime scene. The person responsible for the crime would likely to become anxious, more rigid, reclusive, and more uptight than usual after the crime. The person may have experienced trouble sleeping, may have lost weight, or would have increased his consumption of alcohol and drugs, which would further affect his behavior. The offender may have found a logical reason to leave on a previously unscheduled vacation or visit relatives, change jobs, or provide excuses to miss work on the days immediately after the abduction. Anyone recognizing an individual who has exhibited, then they give the phone number to call, so that's probably not even good at this point. This is from February 9th, the day after they found her, 1990. They think he was between 30 and 35, between 5'8 and 5'10, dark hair, possibly curly, with bald spot near the top of the head. You know what's interesting, when you read that and then you look at their sketch, it doesn't seem to match. So it's like you came up with a sketch based off of the two girls that were there, but they told you he had a bald spot, black curly hair, and you know what I mean? It's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does not match, but there are a couple of other sketches that are rarely seen, I guess. And to me, it's like, who are these? They look nothing like the other people that were released. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing here.
It said other details: a trace of beard growth, possibly wearing round glasses and a tan jacket. Yeah, so that was what the FBI put out back in the day after she was found. So, man, crazy. You have any thoughts on it? Any questions in the chat there?
Yeah, I need to stop reading because now I'm finding a Hispanic-looking man who was seen by a woman who claimed to have been. The woman says that man had been standing at the site where Amy's body was found.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're down the road of the ring again, but that's just a scary thought.
I think it's going to come to the curtain and the, what is it, in the blanket. Yeah, so the blanket apparently had her dog's hair. They confirmed it was her dog's hair, I read somewhere. So it wasn't just that it was similar. That it was her dog's hair, but what really was significant was they found her hair, apparently, on the curtain after they were actually able to do genealogy on. I mean, not genealogy, whatever they did to do it. See, that's the thing is, I'm pretty sure now. I was just reading about the other day that if you have a hair, you can get the actual sequence and be able to tell to a certainty who it came from. I just was reading about it and I actually saw the update on it. It was like 2020. But I don't know. This was from 2019, though, when they matched the hair, right? So that's before.
So now
that.
because they've not given up and there are always some types of updates. You know, I don't know about Delphi. You would know better than I would, but for a long time, there was very little information anywhere, right? It seems as though the Bay Village paper or reporters from there are keeping this going as well, you know, and locals as well. I mean, it's a shame her mom passed before ever finding out who did this.
And this is really, you know, I was telling Chasing Truth at Crime Con, this is James Renner's, this is his first one, the one that he was like on this case for many years, not from the beginning, but very early on, way before it became, you know, true crime was even really a thing, right? I mean,
did you ever hear why he was on it?
No, I did not.
Can I tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to read you guys something. I fell in love with Amy Mihaljevic not long before her body was discovered lying face down in an Ashland County wheat field. I fell for her the first time I saw her in that school photo. Northeast Ohio TV stations flashed at the beginning of every newscast in the weeks following her kidnapping in the autumn of 1989. The photo with the side saddle ponytail. First love in the heart of an 11-year-old boy is all-consuming. One look at that brown-eyed girl and I knew if she had gone to my school, she would have been the one that I passed notes to behind Miss Klein's back. But Amy didn't go to my school. She went to Bay Middle, which was somewhere on another planet, far from the suburban cow town where I lived with my father. I had a vague notion, though, that Bay Village was somewhere where near my mother lived. When I visited Mom every other weekend, I would look for Amy's face in the crowds at the Westgate Mall, hoping to find her wandering in an aisle at Walden Books, as if she's simply been lost somewhere the whole time. I would be the one to lead her home. Throughout the last part of October and the whole of November of 1989, local newscasts began their 6 o'clock coverage with updates on the investigation. It became my routine to come home and immediately turn the TV on to see if there were any new developments, to see if she had finally been found. I watched closely. I learned to pronounce that difficult last name, Mihaljevic. I memorized the face of her abductor from the police artist sketches and searched for him in every crowd. With time, the reports became less frequent. A brief news segment in December covered her 11th birthday party, which her family celebrated without her. And then the reports dropped altogether. But I knew she was alive. She had to be. I was supposed to meet the girl in that photo, maybe at a high school football game 5 years in the future, or maybe in college. She would be found, and I would get to tell her that I never stopped looking for her. On Thursday, February 8th of 1990, I came home and flipped on the TV. I sat cross-legged in front of it, and when the tube finally warmed, her face was on the screen. It was that fifth grade class picture again. I turned the volume up and listened, and my innocence died. Dead, murdered, dumped. The news anchors cut to an aerial picture of County Road 1181 in Ashland County. There were men in dark trench coats milled about a wheat field, tiny specks of black in a sea of brown. The image was strangely ethereal, like the final glimpse of Earth seen by a detached soul. It was here that they said Amy's body had been found. The jogger spotted what looked like a large doll lying on the frozen ground during a morning run. That patch of road they kept showing from afar. Oh my gosh, it's so sad that he was in love with her.
So Renner's way younger than me then. I mean, he must be like...
He was 11 and she was 10. Yeah. He ends up going and talking to his dad. He says, I became an 11-year-old vigilante. My dad came home from work and interrupted me. She's dead, I said, offering as a greeting. My dad said, I know. I heard it on the radio. And then his dad taught him, to, if anything was ever to happen, bite everything that you can find and try to keep it in your mouth, so that they would have some kind of way to figure out what was going on.
That's so crazy because DNA was just starting, right, in 89. The guy, he threw the curtain out. It was 300 yards away from where she was found. Either 300 yards or 300 feet. I remember reading it, but it was... so that means the person was dumping. So he could have just dumped the booklet too, right? And other items in different places.
He could have, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like it's hard to know at that point. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize that he had actually had a crush on her once she was missing.
The first time he saw her photo on the news, he just said, that's it, I'm going to meet her, I'm going to find her, I'm going to know all the things. And then he became a journalist. He didn't want to be a journalist at all. He was doing something totally different. And some magazine gave him a chance. And it was so many years later, and he pitched to them the story of Amy. And they took it, and he started writing about her, and then it ended up in a book.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he does pretty well with the books. I mean, people line up to buy his books over there at Crime Con. And...
Yeah, I bought the book earlier this morning. I want to listen to it.
Yeah.
I want to hear what he has to say in it. I'm also listening to the podcast to get more information. I think it's only like a 5-part series. It wasn't very long. But, there are those cases, right? Delphi for you, Summer Wells for me. But they capture you, and that's it. And apparently she captured him a long time ago.
That's pretty wild.
It is.
I'll have to check out so is it an Audible?
You do. You have Kindle.
What's it called?
Audible, hardcover. Amy, My Search for Her Killer by James Renner.
And then is that what the podcast is called too, or?
No, the podcast is called something else. I did start listening to it last night. It is called Amy Should Be 40.
And when was that made?
Sad. This was now 20, well, let me not say that. 2019 was the first one. Amy goes missing, the lineup, besties, siblings, loose ends. That's it.
Is that by Renner?
It's him and Vault Studios, it looks like, but I believe he's involved in it. Yes.
Okay.
He's definitely involved in it. I heard him on the first podcast last night. Yes. So
Wow.
it was an interesting. Yeah. Now I'm obsessed with the story too. So
yeah, so we might have to do another part or
my
something
goodness.
if you want to. I don't know. We can
Yeah,
dig
I mean,
around.
it's-
Maybe I'll listen to that too, and then we can try to maybe have a show where we're kind of just other thoughts,
doing some
and-
updates. Yeah. I mean, we asked Mr. Renner I did at CrimeCon about Mara Murray as well.
Right. See,
And he does feel it's completely been overdone, but at the same time, if it's done right and there are people who don't know about it, then it's something good that maybe we could bring to it. Hopefully we'll see on that. But also we found out there was nobody there who knew about Summer Wells. Nobody.
Yeah.
So it's just in our little tiny bubble here.
Yeah,
That's
I think
it.
what the deal is with Summer Wells is, like, I was just thinking about it, is that it's we talked about it on that last show that we did, but it's a small niche of the true crime community that's covering it, but it's really popular in that niche.
In the niche, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
so it appears like, wow, this is so huge, but if you notice, it's not on national news.
Not
maybe
really. I mean, Dr.
barely.
Phil and a couple of those things, but that's it.
But there's a lot more coverage just of the missing fugitives right here on national
Oh my
news.
goodness, the missing fugitives. Yeah, that's been huge. Well,
Yeah.
Because he seems absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the deputy lady is still alive. I hope Vicky is still alive
Yeah.
because, you don't know. Did Casey use her as a means to an end? Possible.
Yeah, I think he definitely used her to get out of there. I don't think he would have been like, oh, she's so hot, like he just,
No, I don't think any of that happened.
Yeah,
No.
it's pretty weird. I actually called the tow truck driver, and
you said that.
and he told me like where he parked and
Unbelievable.
specifically. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
It is a wild case. I think they'll be found fairly soon, but
And
there was the man that he pulled the guns on years ago. That
What do you think
came
would
out
look
and
weirder?
said, he's dangerous. He is a dangerous man.
Yeah.
He's the last one you ever want to escape from prison.
Well, they're saying that there's some crazy theory that she's pushing him around in a wheelchair. Okay, listen. He weighs 350 pounds.
He's a big guy.
You think you're going to... And he's taller than her, probably sitting in the wheelchair
down,
than her.
yeah.
So wouldn't it look weird? Even that would
It
look...
might.
Yeah.
It might look a little odd.
I think that would look even weirder than
Unless
if he
they've
was...
got like a big, long wig on him and they made him look like a lady or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because he's kind of hard to hide,
Yeah.
You can't really hide this guy very well. So I think, they're gonna find him. And I agree, he has nothing to lose. He'll go out by suicide.
I mean, his
cops.
ears are huge, too. Like, he can hear really
Agreed.
well. Like, you just put him in a standing position and he turns. It's like sonar.
Yes, he's big in every way, this gentleman. So big tattoos, big head, big ears, big body. I don't think they're gonna last too much longer.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So
anyways, hey, you guys, it was awesome having you here for the Amy Mihaljevic story, and we might keep looking into it and see if we can get more details out there. But at least you have the general part of the story. Really creepy, scary, sad story at the same time.
yeah.
All right.
We will continue. So this will be the end of our podcast, and everything else will cut out so that we can talk to our YouTube chat. Thank you guys for listening, and please come over if you enjoy YouTube, and we're under the same name, So Mean Allegedly.
But I'm not really so mean, right?
You are.
See, there you go. That's gonna make it to the podcast. That was so mean.
Look it.
Yeah.
Hi guys. Now we're here. Our real selves are here.
Yeah, well,
we're cutting all this pot out.
I was always in the real self. It's hard to do like, hey, we're recording for a podcast.
Yeah, and I'm looking at him like, if he says anything to these people in that chat about being fresh, I'm flying to where he is.
The guy
and kicking him in the knee.
Well, he was like trashing us during the show.
I didn't see any of it. I refused to look at the chat before that because I knew it's going to throw us off our game.
No, I thought you were reading it. You were reading articles, though.
I was reading articles. I was not reading the chat.
Maybe next time I'll actually do the same thing and just have it.
Just let them trash us. It's totally fine. Who really cares?
Yeah,
we're so mean. Allegedly.
I think that's a good way to do it. I won't have it on since we're recording.
Yeah, and then we can talk to the chat at the end. Hey guys.
Because I normally don't read the chat at all, and that's kind of what you do. So in my case, I just happened to see the one guy that was saying that. Other than that,
there definitely are people out there who feel strongly that Runkle is not involved. There's actually a YouTube channel for him. And, that's fine. It's like any other case. Some people feel, Keegan's involved. Some people feel he isn't. Some people feel Don Wells is involved. Some people feel he isn't. So that's going to happen. That's why I said, I'm not going to look at the chat. And when we do Maura's case, that's a very, very wild one. And there are people who are obsessed.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't say exactly what, because they've been doing it for
we will have trolls.
I understand their feeling. like when you cover it's the same thing with you. Like you cover Summer Wells, every little detail, and then let's say somebody new shows up and they start talking about it, but they're not really bringing up all the things that to be true, and then it's sort of like you get angry, you're in the chat and you're trying to see. That's kind of how it is, right? So we'd be covering Maura Murray and this one and Amy Mihaljevic, we just did for I covered it years ago, but I don't know, I don't sit there and keep covering it over and over, so I don't know every single detail of it. We're going to be the people
that's my whole weird thing in my brain too. I've got to know all the details. Once I'm a little bit interested, it's over for me.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't remember them over for 4 years.
You do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases too. So you're actually a true crime creator. So you do all the things, Gray.
Yeah, I got so many cases. It's crazy.
My ridiculous need for knowing prevents me from even getting anything out. It's like, I'm glad Gray hit me up about this because I haven't posted a video in a week.
Yeah.
So it's good that I'm able to do stuff with you because otherwise I will just be sitting here forever.
Did you guys notice during the show she was still researching? Did you notice that?
Sadly. I know. You're like, are you okay over there?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were doing. I was like...
I have 9 tabs open.
I thought you were reading the chat, but there's nothing going on in the chat. So then I was like, what is she doing? And she's literally reading more articles. That's hilarious.
It's ridiculous. I hate it. I wish I wasn't that way. It's quite annoying.
Yeah.
But here I am doing it again. I've got the book downloaded now. I have 9 tabs open on this screen, and then I have another screen behind the Zoom that's open. Yeah. I've, the podcast I'm about to put up on my podcast. It's the story that I've been working on, Gray, for well over a year. Well over a year. I've written it out to read for my podcast. No less than 20 different times. Then I read it and I'm like, nope, don't like that. Scrap the whole thing and write it again. I know it like the back of my head, and I probably have at least 70 different articles.
Why don't you try it in a different way? Why don't you just
stupid.
Why don't you put up key things and just let you talk about it like you do? I think that
might work, right?
Yeah, because I think it would work, because I think you know it well enough, and this is the point I'm talking about now, and you just go on that. And then just look at your note, maybe tie that into that, and then boom, you just keep going like that.
You might be right.
Yeah, because I think
I'm overthinking it to death, because the story is so intriguing to me that I want to be able to convey it well. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm never going to post this because I keep going back and making all these edits,
because you're wondering
a new detail.
Right. And you're worrying about, you might not put every single detail in there, but I think you'd probably get more in there if you just let you do it as you're thinking, because every time you're reading it, right, your mind is what told you, oh wait, I forgot this part. Well, you wouldn't have forgot that had you been reading it. I mean, not reading it. Had you just looked at a note and started talking, you wouldn't have left that detail out. And
I know, but I'm so ridiculous that there are two families involved in this, and they each have daughters. So I did make a mistake and I got the two confused. And when I realized that was a week ago, right when I got back from CrimeCon, oh my God, I scrapped every single draft that I had because I was so aggravated that I got those two wrong. I'm like, well, if you got those wrong, you probably got everything wrong. And I had to start over from scratch, got rid of all of my notes.
Yeah, I just think
it's been brutal.
Well,
it's been the worst
I
week.
just think once you know it, you just can talk about, like in Wells, you can just, someone can bring up something. Well, no, at this time. So why not, you already know that case well. Just try one. And here's the thing. What's cool about it, doing it that way, you have a topic to talk about, you talk about it. And then after that's done, you have that recorded. You might go, oh yeah, just do another little segment that you can add, jump right in, like but word it like, and also there was this thing, and just boom, and you just keep editing it together. And then you have the whole thing.
Yeah, you might be right. Because I mean, I have my recorder and editor open now, and I have 17 things recorded.
Well, just give it a shot.
And I'll probably use none of them.
Yeah. Well, that's how I did it for like the on that other channel they got. That's called what is it? I only have 2 videos on it, but it was called
Nefarious.
Yeah, when you're talking. Nefarious. But I'm not reading any script, but it sort of sounds.
You're just talking.
Like it. Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, but I just do a part and then I add another
Renee,
part.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know anything about this case. I'm just learning everything about this case now.
I'm not sure what they're saying there, actually.
I don't know. It says you know nothing about this case. I don't. No.
Well, it wasn't. Doesn't seem like it was
obsessed.
It didn't look like a question. I wasn't sure what they were doing.
No, I think it's a statement.
Do you think it's a negative?
Statement.
Do you think it's something negative? Clarify yourself, Renee. Let us know what you're talking about.
Tell us what you're saying here, Renee.
Please, Renee, because depending on what your next answer is, we'll reflect on whether or not you're able to communicate in this channel ever again. Thank you.
Uh-oh, Amy got you. I guess you're not communicating anymore.
Well, no, we didn't want her timed out because I wanted to see what she said.
We were waiting for the answer, Amy.
God.
What was our favorite thing from CrimeCon? Meeting each other.
Yeah, I would say that really is my favorite part, was like, meeting a sister from another mother, whatever the hell it was, right?
Yeah, he asked me today, "Oh, are you aggravated? Do you want to punch me?"
Yeah, because she was
and I'm
really
like,
short.
Did I punch you a lot or what?
Well, she was really short with me on responses. It was up there, Gray.
Listen, sir, it's Mother's Day, and I have all the people talking to me, even though I was trying to get up here and get away.
Yeah,
and just come see the fish. The time throw it before you say, "Oh, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay."
You guys are the
Force. I like that name.
Yeah.
And
so
hey, Bob.
How many? Put a 1 for all the people
you.
in here that this is the first time you heard of this case. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that means, see, that's why we're doing it. I mean, even though it's not like every single detail that is known to mankind. I mean, look how we've already been on here for an hour and 38 minutes. That would have been like so that's why we might do another one where we can sort of bring in.
For sure. First time I heard of it was CrimeCon when you mentioned it to me after I was talking to him about Mara. You were like, "Oh no, his first case was Amy." I'm like, "What?
Who's
Amy?"
Look at that. Look at all those ones.
I've never heard of it in my life ever.
That's crazy. Look at that. That's amazing.
I'm so glad that you see. We're gonna be covering all the things, Gray.
Yep. And a lot
she's
of
the same age as my niece. Oh my gosh. See?
Let's see.
Fake info on the internet. Kubi's heard of it.
Well, I'm sure Kubi has, because she used to be on my channel a long time ago. I played it. I mean, I didn't play it. Let's say I covered it like in 2018, and then another. Throughout the years of the updates. 2019 they had and then when they were showing the press conference with the. I mean, that might be something we could go try to find, or things like that, like press conferences, things where, because they did a press conference where they showed the curtain and talked about it.
Yep, I did see that. I watched that actually. I should have. I couldn't download it. It was on a website, and I couldn't find the YouTube version. I could have screen recorded it, but maybe a retired detective would like to speak about it. Well, that would be wonderful if they would do that.
Yeah.
Kelly Dragonborn. That's a great name too. There are some good names in here today.
Yeah, that's she's on my channel. Dragonborn. I thought it sounded like it was something out of like Lord of the Rings or that. What's that other show that was on?
No, it's the
Showtime?
other one.
Showtime.
Where they had the Night Walker guy.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Night guy.
It's
that was a great series. The ending
It was
made
awesome.
me want to stab people in the eyes.
Yeah, it was. It was the worst ending in the history of any show.
It was so upsetting
It was
to me.
It was stupid.
I couldn't even. I couldn't move on. And
Yeah,
that's
Game
one
of
of the
Thrones. Game of Thrones.
That's one of the series that made me just stop watching TV, and I really meant it after that. I was like, nope, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, it almost seemed like they go, you know what? Screw everybody out there. Let's just suck right at the end, right? It was just.
It was so great up until that point.
You know what? You know the I don't know what you recall to him as dwarf. You know the little guy. What's his name?
Hey, Nav.
Tyrion. What's his name? What do you?
Tyrion.
Tyrion. Yeah. He had one of the best lines ever. I'm trying to remember. It was something. It was so perfect. He goes something like, "Wanting something to be true doesn't make it a fact." And I always apply that to the true crime community because people think
I really loved him.
They
he
want
was
something.
probably my favorite.
Yeah, he's my favorite guy in there for sure.
I can imagine why he's your favorite there, Gray.
Why is that? Because he said that?
Because he was exactly the same as you. He just said whatever he wanted to say.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it could be that.
Maybe I felt I identified with him. I think that might be it. Yeah.
He was. I loved him so much. There were so many that I loved in that show. So, yes, it is good to see you, Mr. Navilis True Crime. You have some such great videos. I love watching you, and your accent is the best. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like the Dexter ending too. That sucked. Okay.
I've never seen Dexter a day in my life.
Well, you should
Don't even
watch
know
it.
what
It's pretty
is.
good. It's a show. Hey, so.
No, I have no time to watch anything else. I'm very busy. With
So
YouTube.
thank you to Candalee Woodward Stone, Amy
Candalee?
CHS, Vet Girl,
Amy.
RWB,
Vet Girl.
US, I guess, and then
Oh, Renee says she knew Amy personally.
Connemara Heather. Oh, did you really? Well,
Renee,
maybe,
the one who said I know nothing about the case.
Maybe we could try something like that where we find people and actually ask them questions and put that together. Like literally, you know, hell, get Renner on and ask him a few key things or something. And
Yeah, Renee, do you think that James Renner knows anything about the case?
And thank you.
She was found at the back of my daughter's property.
Connemara Harris. Oh wait, their daughter's property. Oh wait, because I did have a name. I tried to look.
Is that your daughter's property right there?
Well, there was a person that lived right here that was in the media. Their name, one of these two homes, and they had a really short last name. I can't remember what it was. I tried to look up the parent to see if I could find the exact spot, but they actually lived in this town right over here. That was actually one of the addresses. I actually still have it up right there. It's funny.
Yeah, some people have an issue seeing, so they use cap locks.
I see. Yeah, and also thank you to Alice Patak, and then we got 2 new channel members. And if you guys would like to join the channel, see what we're trying to do is we would love it if the super chats wasn't really, there was no pressure whatsoever in here on super chats, and it was just like we had a lot of channel members because we can just do the memberships, and we at the end of each month or quarter actually we're going to do 25% of the net revenue goes to charity. Yes. And I think there's already like 200 something in there, so hopefully, you know, if we pick it up here, we can maybe try to get almost $1,000 by the end of the quarter, maybe. Just a, you know, pie in the sky thought, but you never know.
In the sky. We're old. Pie in the sky.
Yeah.
New London, Ohio is where she was found. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
The guy must have been a really
1181.
Must have been a really smooth talker. Yeah. So what they said in the paper was they gave this address right here, this road and this one. That was the intersection. Then they said 300 yards from the house, and that's about where this is. And it literally matches almost exactly like the picture. If you go down to Street View here and you just look, see it's at the top of the hill. I wonder if that's where they got that one shot. See, there's the other
Possibly,
hill.
yeah.
If you go down here, that one that looked like it, they were just off to the side, and then they were way up there, and they were zooming in on it. So like that. I think right at the top of that hill up here is where she was found, right over there. Not next to this house, obviously.
And also, please hit the like button.
Wow, you said that just like one of those like computers on a spaceship.
I am a computer on a
Please,
spaceship.
Please hit
Man
the like
who was
button.
the focus of this case lives right next door to where her body was found. And what was his name, Renee?
Oh, she came back.
Yeah, I haven't found any
Yeah, they didn't say that
suspects.
he wasn't the focus. He drove by there. He's the guy that's focused there. They looked at now.
Thank you, Colin.
I think he was the body was moved there much later from a distance from far away. They wanted her body way away, but found. Maybe they were feeling a little guilt and wanted her body to be found and make it back to the family. And then I don't know. And then he drove by to check out what the progress was. You know, I don't know. It's just sometimes they actually feel like that. Like there's a little bit of guilt. Ay, wow.
Copper Horse.
Hey, thanks,
Thank
Copper
you
Horse.
so much.
Thanks, Copper Horse.
Yay.
If
Some
I
of
had
that is
the
going to charity.
if I had
Thank you
the-
so much.
If I had the cat eye going on, it would boom. Yeah.
Or lizard eyes. We appreciate it so
Oh,
much, Copper.
You like Grady Judd at all?
Who?
The sheriff in Florida named Grady Judd. Okay, let me play these. These are lines that he said.
Oh, God.
No,
Are
listen.
these weird things that
No,
you're
look,
going to play? Like,
no, listen.
Marianne?
These are what he says at press conferences. Stuff like this. Listen.
5 brain cells, 4 aren't working.
He's a great sheriff. Now listen to this one.
Did you hear what I said?
He says it all the time. And then this one.
You know, that's just one step above stupid.
He's talking about the criminal, right? And so now you already like him because he says, listen to this one line from the last press conference. He was talking about how big mosquitoes are. Listen to this. Listen.
There's mosquitoes the size of bald eagles in that dadgum swamp.
Because they found this body in a swamp. He goes, there's mosquitoes the size of bald eagles in that dead gum
but what
swamp.
does that have to do with Copper Horse's contribution?
I've quit listening.
Are you
to that.
calling him a eagle mosquito?
There was something to do with something you just said just prior to that.
No, you wanted to play some cat eye deal.
No, there was
I don't know what that meant.
Something was led to the cat eye donation, and then it made me. I couldn't find it, and then I saw Grady Judd on there. That's right. That's what it was. Hey, thank you for getting back to how that evolved. Yeah.
I tell you. Now, Renee's saying she used to ride horses with Amy and her daughter's house burnt down. So, Renee, maybe you'll come back for our next one. And we could chat if you're actually...
Yeah, we don't even know who that is.
Real.
Yeah. I always get skeptical when people like that. Nothing they're
skeptical
saying,
of everybody.
Nothing said by her yet has in any article.
If
that
you
I've
have
read.
information, you can email us. The so mean allegedly at Gmail with photos of you and Amy together on horses, and then I'll believe you.
That's New London right there, and she was found. We know where she's found, Renee. We've been putting it on the screen for an hour and a half. Let's see.
I don't think Renee's angry. I think she's just typing in caps, and that just makes us think that.
Well, that original comment said you know nothing about or whatever.
Yeah.
See
You
that?
said where she was found, but we also said where she was found. So.
Yeah, we
I
already said
definitely
where she was
wasn't
found,
there.
Renee. We already have exactly where she was found, right here.
Yeah. Because
All
they
right.
released that to the public.
Yeah, and there's images from helicopters and so forth. Hey, thanks, Eugenie.
Oh gosh, what am I doing? What happened?
Hey, welcome, Moonlight View.
Oh, there it is. That's better.
To Rational
Because you don't
Minds.
like to say. Thank you, Moonlight and Eugenie. We didn't give any disinformation on this, Renee.
Yeah, we're
That
just putting out.
Actually, didn't happen.
Yeah, so that's where you could
Okay.
tell she wasn't a. Put this part in the podcast too.
Ma'am, it's Mother's Day, so we're gonna end this.
Yeah. Anyways, Hey, thank you guys very much for being here. And again, if you consider becoming a channel member, it'd be awesome. And we're gonna try to have like more of a regular schedule for sure, maybe a couple shows a week, something like that.
Yes.
I know sometimes it gets hard, but it's hard, especially with someone like her that needs to have every single tiny, listen, all we got. But there's cases, it's just good to get it out there and the main gist of the story,
I will have way more details next time.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts, you guys. So,
Whatever.
all right. Thank you guys very much. And we'll see
Gotta go
you.
cook dinner. Should I have to cook dinner
No,
on
you
Mother's
really
Day?
shouldn't.
I don't
You really
think
should.
so.
You really shouldn't. I
think I'm going to order Japanese food. What do you think?
I made Chris an omelet this morning. What do you think of that?
Very nice.
See? I made her an omelet, and then I said, now clean up the damn kitchen. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But people go, did you hear what Gray said? He said it. Yeah, okay. Listen,
He makes his wife clean the dishes.
Yeah, jeez.
You ordered pizza.
Oh, man.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. I don't think it's
Yeah,
Mother's Day.
you need to be
I
doing
should have Japanese food on Mother's Day.
Uber
am I
Eats.
correct?
Uber Eats right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
No
friend.
cooking. If you cook tonight, that's not good. All right.
That's against the rules of Mother's Day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. All right, you guys. I guess that's it, right? Anything else?
Emily had cereal. Cereal's awesome, though, so there's that.
Emily Flotilla?
Yes.
Okay.
Our painting lady. I love my painting. It's right behind me.
Here,
right
let me grab
there
this
where I
one.
can see it at all times.
Here's one that Emily made for
Beautiful.
me. Emily Flotilla made for me a long time ago. Look at you guys.
Beautiful.
It's awesome.
I love it so much.
Wow.
Mine's right there above my head.
And then she had a big thing on the back. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll forget it.
Forget it.
Too bright. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Flotilla. Never. I used to call her Flotilla or something.
Flotilla.
Because it looks like tortilla.
Accent going on there, Gray Hughes.
Yeah.
Where's my?
And earlier I said that the gravestones of Abby and Libby say the 13th and 14th, but it could just be that. That's how it was in the obituary. I know that part, so that's what I meant to say. One says the 13th, one says the 14th, and people go, "Oh my God!" So one of them was still, still alive. But all you had to do was check it out and look into it, and you realize. But that rumor persisted for like 3 years. If you can, I mean, you probably totally understand that because that same kind of stuff happens in Summer Wells.
Every day, honey.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day. All the things.
All right. So, that it? Do you got anything else?
I have nothing else.
All
I'm
right.
not staying on here after either.
Well,
so
happy
don't
Mother's Day to all
try
of you
it.
awesome moms out there. That includes you. Chasing Truth. I'll fix your name here coming up here. We got to get that fixed.
Yes, we do need to fix this.
I don't even know why you ever changed. I know why you changed it, but you didn't need to do that. But,
I know.
Anyways, all right, you guys. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys learned something about Amy Mihaljevic, and maybe you could, or Mihaljevic, I think is how they say it actually. With
Oh, don't get that wrong. You're gonna be in
Mihaljevic.
so much trouble,
Mihaljevic, right? Like that.
Yeah.
And at least you guys know about it, and you can talk about it with other people, and you just never know if the right person hears something that it might lead
Exactly.
back to finding
sure.
the barbarian killer. All right. So thank you guys very much, and right at the end there to wow, Copper Horse. That was crazy. Thank you very much. I didn't even notice that. I thought it was 100.
That was wild, Copper Horse. Absolutely wild.
And Eugenie, thank you very much right there. And Colin
You guys
Pelton
are
and
wonderful.
Elaine Tolling. So we will see you guys coming up soon, and thank you very much. And as I always say on my show, until next time, be safe out there. And she says, I love you so much. All right.
I love you so much.
Wow, that sounded like Mary Lou saying that.
I was talking to my Japanese food.
Oh,
That's
okay.
on the way.
All right. See you later.
Bye. Don't talk during it.
Okay, I won't.
You said don't talk, but then you talk.
I didn't talk. You're talking right now.
No, I'm not. does sound pretty good. I gotta be honest.
They refuse to bring me in.
We could all still hear you.